There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention, and human inventions are made by bodies and brains working together.
13 seconds. That is all it took to convince thousands of people that maybe the most trusted science communicator on YouTube had just been caught reading ChatGPT text on camera. Can't trust no one no more. What a fraud. Rare Hank Green L. Thousands of people reached a verdict on 13 seconds of a 64-minute episode. And yet, within a single day of the accusation surfacing, Hank Green had apologized, admitted to what he had described as an unhealthy relationship with AI, and paused multiple projects. That's a lot of consequences for an accusation nobody ever managed to prove. For one half of the internet, this was the end of an era, with one viewer writing, "I used to find your videos really informative and educational, but since you're using AI for research, I can't trust what you say anymore. I'm out." The other half could not work out what he had even done wrong. Under the episode itself, the most liked comment about the drama was just a joke. Maybe change the name to Ask ChatGPT Anything now. So if the clip was misleading, why did Hank Green end up confessing to something much bigger than the accusation? The answer starts with the strangest fact in this whole saga. The strongest evidence against Hank Green did not come from the internet. It came from Hank Green himself. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we'll be examining the 13 seconds that put Hank Green on trial, an accusation the internet couldn't prove, and a confession nobody asked for. But you know one thing I'll never outsource to a chatbot? Asking you to subscribe, so hit that button and let's get on with the video. To understand why one recycled chatbot phrase could do this much damage, you first need to understand how high the pedestal was. Hank Green is the co-founder of Complexly, the non-profit studio behind Crash Course and SciShow. And at the time all of this happened, he had around 3.2 million subscribers on his personal channel, with another 360,000 on Complexly's. Complexly's own website describes its mission as, quote, thoughtful, well-researched educational content made by researchers, writers, editors, hosts, artists, and fact-checkers. In other words, the process is the product. What a Complexly show really sells is the confidence that somebody checked the work, and nobody sold that confidence harder than Hank himself. In May of 2026, he boiled his whole business model down to 8 words.
Ranting for 4 hours costs basically nothing, while a Crash Course episode about atomic orbitals written by researchers and fact-checked and standards-aligned and animated looking fancy enough, that all costs a lot. And it might get way more views, it'll definitely deliver way more value, but it doesn't matter if it costs so much more that there's no way for it to sustain itself. Good information is expensive, bad information is cheap.
A week after that, he named the one advantage he believed educational media still held over AI.
Not a good bit about the answer to that question. And I think there's like obvious answers about like hallucination and credibility. And I think that there's, you know, sort of like mid-obvious answers to that question about like human connection and human trust and human labor and all of the work that goes into making something super credible step by step with a lot of different inputs from a lot of different people who have a lot of different jobs. So that is all, to some extent, sort of saying like, well, this is the current gap between human work and AI work, and so we exist in the space where that gap still exists.
The moat, in his words, was human connection, human trust, and human labor. Work made, quote, super credible step by step. And back in February, he had gone even further, describing what happens to the person who hands their thinking over to a chatbot.
AI, especially chatbots and LLMs, are very good at these exercises because they're just exercises. And so in theory, you can offload that type of work to them, which in the moment makes your life easier, and in the long run means your brain misses a final step of development we need for just human civilization to continue at the pace that it is.
Keep that February clip in mind. It was recorded 5 months before any of this happened, and it is about to become the most important receipt in this entire story. That is the height of the pedestal, and it explains both halves of everything that follows. It is exactly why any AI in Hank's workflow felt like a betrayal to some viewers, and exactly why a research research or writing shortcut looked like nothing at all to others. On the 29th of July 2026, Complexly uploaded a 64-minute episode titled "Does Hank Green Shave His Butt?" Soupy Time asks Hank anything. The format has one quirk that this entire story turns on. Whenever Hank is unable to answer a question in the room, the episode cuts to future Hank, a version of himself recorded after the sit-down, where he returns with researched answers. About a day and a half after this episode went up, the accusation started to spread. The first post accusing Hank was deleted, and I was unable to find an archive, so I can't tell you who made it, exactly what it said, or how many people saw it. But what can be dated is everything that came after it. In the early hours of the 31st of July, Hank posted a response on X. We will get to what the response said in a moment because it deserves its own section. Hours after Hank had already responded, a channel called Cart Posting uploaded the 13 seconds you saw at the start of this video, with a title that read, "Hank Green accidentally reads AI prompt feedback left in his script." From there, the clip spread to Blue Sky. In a post reading, his reply is a response to him supposedly reading a ChatGPT prompt from a script. And to be fair to every person who believed that title, the accusation was believable for 3 specific reasons. Firstly, "I appreciate the pushback" is one of the most recognizable chatbot phrases in existence. Secondly, the line appears in one of those later recorded future Hank inserts, the segments that read as scripted rather than spontaneous. And thirdly, by the time the clip was spreading, Hank had already publicly admitted that ChatGPT was part of his research process for this exact episode. Put those 3 things together and it looked opened and shut. However, it wasn't that simple, because the 13 seconds had context, and the clip cut it off. Here is the full sequence in order exactly as it appears in the episode. At 42 minutes and 45 seconds, Hank's guest, the science creator Soupy Time, brings up a made-up word, and Hank waves the entire premise away with a single line.
That's a made-up word. That's not real.
They're all made up words, Georgie.
What about like the... Okay, never mind.
Well, hit me. Do you think that there's some that aren't made up?
Yes,
Okay.
but
I have some thoughts, actually.
there's like Booba and Kiki.
Okay, great. Now we're talking about Booba and Kiki?
Like, isn't that a word that
Future
exists
Hank.
through any language that people can determine what it means?
Future Hank. Current Hank is not well-versed enough on Booba and Kiki, though he knows what they are, but future Hank is gonna tell you about Booba and Kiki.
Her pushback is a real phenomenon called the Booba and Kiki effect. People tend to match rounded sounds to rounded shapes and sharp sounds to spiky ones. He admits on camera that he is not versed enough to answer in the room, and hands the question off to future Hank. 3 minutes of episode later, future Hank returns with his researched answer. This is the disputed line in full.
Appreciate the pushback is a human invention, and human inventions are made by bodies and brains working together with the systems that they have, including the sounds that they make and how that feels inside of the brain. The really interesting thing here is that the Booba and Kiki thing is real, and it goes beyond Booba and Kiki.
A real person really did push back on camera 3 minutes earlier, and the disputed line answers her directly. Hank says the phrase wasn't in his notes or his script. He says he came up with it on the spot while recording, and nothing that's public proves him wrong. The clip sounded suspicious, but the full conversation gave Hank a clear human reason to thank his guest for pushing back. That context should have killed this story within a day. It did not, because the thing that kept it alive was not the accusation. It was Hank's answer to it. Going back to the early morning of the 31st of July, hours before that 13-second clip spread, Hank published his now deleted response. Hank explained he'd made the episode in a rush, that he checked his process, and that the viral line was made up on the spot to answer his guest. But in the same post, he admitted to using ChatGPT for research and, in his own words, relied too much on generated notes. Read that again. While denying the small thing, he admitted to a bigger thing. AI was part of how a complexly video got made, and from that moment, the internet largely stopped caring about the 13 seconds. By that afternoon, a longtime fan had opened a thread on the Nerdfighter subreddit, asking Hank for an explanation. Hank walked right into that thread and posted an apology that hurt his case more than any accuser ever had. It starts with, "I'm mortified that I have let so many people down." Then he explains the real problem. The thing that everything we do is based on is that you know that what I'm saying are my thoughts coming from my brain in a way I decide. I have made that harder, and I'm sorry. I have been relying too heavily on AI as a research aid. It can be very useful for this task, giving me access to a lot of papers I didn't know existed really fast. But I think that has been to the detriment of my work, because it has not given me the freedom to find all of my own ways into and around a topic. To be clear about what he is and isn't admitting to, Hank says his videos were never ChatGPT said this. He says AI helped him find papers and the takes were still his own. And for what it's worth, I don't think he's lying. But what he conceded to next went further than anything his accusers had. Reading, "I think what people have said in this thread about me diluting myself is spot on. I've been moving so fast that my own process isn't actually clear to me." And then the passage that ended up almost in every article written about this story, where Hank ties the habit to something closer to compulsion. Reading, "But mostly I need to come to terms with the fact that the level of dopamine I've been getting from interacting with LLMs, with doing more and more and more, is not healthy for me or good for the world. It is careless and has disconnected me from where people are on this." He also mentions that his wife, Catherine, and his brother John, quote, "did not pull any punches when they talked it through." That is as far as the record goes. Later that day, Hank deleted the X post and replaced it with a link to the Reddit response. And then came the consequences announced by Hank himself. Reading, "Expect less Hank's channel. It may need to pause for a while." His projects Smush and 4x3 were paused as well, and he floated a future where Hank's channel comes back with writing and research support, or simply far fewer videos. Which is the moment the question of this story officially changed. It was no longer did AI write one sentence, it was how much had AI already shaped the process of a man whose entire value proposition is his process. Now for the part of the story no one had to dig up. Hank filmed it himself months in advance. To be fair, none of this is a broken promise. Hank never promised to stay away from AI. He just described it as a risk out loud and then lived it. Remember that February clip? Here it is again.
AI, especially chatbots and LLMs, are very good at these exercises because they're just exercises. And so in theory, you can offload that type of work to them, which in the moment makes your life easier. And in the long run means your brain misses a final step of development we need for just human civilization to continue at the pace that it is.
5 months after that warning, Hank admitted it had happened to him. The generated notes stopped him finding his own way through his topics. He described the trap, then walked right into it. And the man who told everyone, quote, "Good information is expensive, bad information is cheap," admitted he had been racing to pump out videos fast, even though, as he put it, "making more things does not make me make better things." There's also one more layer. Complexly's own AI rules, which are public and cut both ways. The rules say no videos written, edited, or fact-checked by AI, and they warn that these tools confidently make things up, but the same rules allow AI for early research, like finding sources, as long as a human checks the work. How the internet took all of this depends on which corner of it you were standing in. For one camp, this was a good buy. You already saw the viewer who wrote, "I can't trust what you say anymore, I'm out." Under the episode itself, another comment put it more bluntly. "Ew, what a shame to not only admit you used ChatGPT to research for this video, but to do it on Complexly is even grosser." The distrust even spread to a space video Hank had posted the day before, one that had nothing to do with any of this. Reading, "Was this written by AI Hank? I don't know who to trust, if I can't even trust you." And outside his audience, the BreadTube subreddit treated the episode as flat-out deception. This camp's message was simple: if even Hank Green is doing this, no one is clean. The other camp mostly couldn't see the crime. The top comments under the Scandal episode were still jokes, science talk, and praise for the guest. The most liked comment about the drama was the Ask ChatGPT Anything joke from the start of this video, and on his personal channel, comments like this were arriving the same hour as the accusations. I saw all the hate you're getting online and wanted to send some love. You've always been a refuge to me in tough times. Defenders argued the critics were treating a small amount of AI-assisted research as if the entire video was generated with the click of a button. And then there were Hank's most loyal fans. In the same Reddit thread where he posted his apology, the nerd fighters were angry too, but their anger kept mixing with worry about him, reading, "Hank has always pushed himself too hard to accomplish more and more. He is allowed to slow down. I would rather him slow down and make even half the content over using AI for images and a script." So here is where the trial of Hank Green stands. The internet never proved the 13 seconds, and it may never be able to. It was Hank who supplied the bigger admission himself, that a tool he used to move faster had begun weakening the exact reason people listened to him in the first place. And maybe that split reaction is the real story. The same set of facts reads as either an apocalypse or as a nothing burger, depending on what you already believe about AI. And Hank Green has now become the test case for a line the internet has not yet agreed on. He put the stakes better than any commentator has. I'm very sorry for harming the thing this is all based on. I do believe that the 13-second clip was taken out of context. I don't think he was reading ChatGPT in that moment, but the fact that he came out and just admitted that he was using ChatGPT to research his videos seemed really strange to me, and it does make me question whether there is more to this than appears on the surface. I'm sure only time will tell, as viewers are now watching through Hank's videos, trying to find AI quirks, trying to find signature AI lines, which I'm sure whether he's using AI or not, people will find. Whether you're a creator who frequently uses AI or has a fully human team, you are bound to be accused of using AI by somebody. Heck, people even accuse my face cam of being AI. Now that was partially my fault because I spent 2 years using the wrong frame rate, but the point is, even if you are completely human with a fully human team, there will always be someone to accuse you of being AI. And in the case of Hank Green, he just painted a massive target on his back. And whilst many of his fans are disappointed, I'm disappointed right now because there are tons of YouTubers promoting this sponsor scare. They reached out to me asking me to lie to my audience, but I exposed them instead. Click the video on screen to learn more.